Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to Midweek Live. How are we all doing in chat? Are we all okay? Up for an odd one, a bit of a different stream today. We're going to be talking about all of those drivers who are set to be moving on at the end of the season, either from certain teams or from Formula One entirely. So we've got quite a few drivers to get through. I'm going to be joined by Jonty and Jonty and Dan to go through that one. Good start, Sean. We're also going to be doing a channel update as well, which if you're not going to be sticking around for that or you don't stick around for the full live stream, so that's going to get lopped out of the live stream and put up as a standalone video as well for those that don't really tend to watch the live stream. So yes, that's going to be up on the channel later. And we'll do a bit of Q&A as well if we've got a little bit of time, but there is so much to get through tonight that I think it's probably a very good idea, if I can do this right, which apparently I can't. Bear with me 30 seconds, peeps. I think we've got a problem over on Discord again, just for a change. I'm just going to go in there. And say a good evening to Jonty and Dan. For some reason, my recording tab doesn't seem to be working, guys.
Oh, that's very strange. Well, good evening, everyone.
I'll drop in here and say hello to you. Hello, Dan. I know you sort of said in the middle of the week or earlier in the week that I tend to introduce you in a bit of a predictable way. So, you all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine. That's a lovely way to introduce me. And you messed up my name at the beginning, so cheers for that, mate. I really, really appreciate that.
All in all, a minute in, it's been very positive. Nothing seems to want to work. But we're going to hop straight into this because we've got quite a few. I didn't realise how many we had to get through. Kind of forgot how crazy silly season had been. But I thought we'll start in sort of championship order and see where we end up. So Kimi Räikkönen first off, on his way from Ferrari after, what's that, a 4-5 year stay now? Joined in 2014, I believe. So long old time. Obviously, the last world champion as well. It's going to be probably more emotional for Ferrari than it will be for Kimi, to be honest, Jonty. He's probably going to be not that bothered if we're being honest. But I quite like that he's going back to Sauber. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm kind of a romantic in that respect. I like my OCD likes things being tied off. I quite like that he's going back there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like the circular nature of it when a driver leaves with the same team that he started. That's why I always wanted Button to go back to Williams instead of giving up.
Yeah, I'd love to have seen Jensen back at Williams, the team that kind of gave him his chance. And that was the same with Kimi, wasn't it? Obviously, Sauber his first team in that. But all in all this year, we're going to kind of look at, try not to review the season too much, obviously, Dan, but all in all, I've been really not blown away by Kimi this year, but seriously impressed by him. I did not expect that he would be as good as he has been. I mean, I was quite critical of him in the winter, felt like he'd had enough when he was off and his heart wasn't in it anymore. He was just there for a paycheck, but couldn't have been any more wrong this year.
Yeah, I was the same. At the end of last year, I thought, nah, he's got to go. Let's just chuck Charles in now as a rookie and that'll be fine. But no, he's been really impressive this year. Obviously not quite on that championship hunt like Vettel has been, but he's got more podiums than Vettel. Like you say, he's been the best. Well, he's been in the best form in a very, very long time, probably since he left Lotus in 2013. So, like you say, we don't want to go over too much, almost like a season review, but he's been really good this year. And it's really great to see him so chipper going to Sauber.
Yeah, definitely. Just a quick segue here. Hello to Ryan, L83 in the chat. I'm supposed to stalk you on your streams, mate. You're not supposed to be over here stalking me. Hope you're all right, mate. Good to see you there. But yeah, I'm really happy he's going to Sauber, and I think it's a challenge as well. That's kind of how I see it, to be honest, Dan. I think he still wants to race. He said that. His management have said that his heart's still in it. He wants to be out there competing. And if Sauber can deliver a good car, yes, he's still going to be able to pick up points. But I think he maybe sees it as a final challenge and a final farewell to show what he's got.
Yeah, and it's nice to see as well because we know it's not really going to, well, it's not going to be a competitive car in terms of getting podiums. But I think we've spoke a few times that if a race really goes crazy and if Sauber continues the progress they've made this year, then why not? If we have another crazy Baku race, then why not? Kimi could be there. And you're right, it's nice to see, like you say, John, it would have been nice to see Button go to Williams and have that sort of lower midfield sort of scrap in his final sort of season. But I'm really looking forward to see Kimi do it because that's someone at the front we don't see always, these wheel-to-wheel battles. And Kimi hasn't really had many opportunities to do that this year. So I'm really looking forward to it next year. And I'm really looking forward to see if we can see a little bit of the old Kimi with some really fantastic wheel-to-wheel racing.
That'd be good. I'd love that. I'd love that right in the midfield rather than sort of getting into no man's land as he does do sometimes in races. But what are you expecting next year from him, Jonty? Do you think Kimi and Sauber can pick up a few top end points? Maybe if we get a crazy racer, a surprise podium?
Well, if they carry on at the rate of development that they have this year, they could be easily fighting to be best of the rest, I think.
Yeah. Well, you could argue they are now, really.
Yeah, I mean, this start of the year, they were still a little bit sort of off the pace, but the way that they've improved over the course of the season has been phenomenal. And with the experience of Kimi in there, that can only be positive things.
Yeah, that's it. They've got a rookie. I mean, he's not young, is he, Antonio Giovinazzi? But he's still a rookie, so that experience is going to be key. But very excited to see what Kimi can do next year. Question for you, Jonty, and you as well, Dan. Absolutely, if your mind goes back as far as mine and Jonty's does. But when was the last time we saw a driver like Kimi Räikkönen move from a team like Ferrari to a proper backmarker? Don't say Alonso, because that wasn't the plan. I don't think he expected his move to McLaren to be a backmarker move, but somebody who knows that he's going to a team that's at best in the midfield. I'm trying to think, and I can't think. I think I've put us all on the spot with that one.
How big profile do you want? Because obviously in 2010, you had the likes of Glock. He went back, but he wasn't really a big profile driver. That's probably the most high profile in my time. Yeah.
Just looking at Massa is a good shout from Sam. Very good shout. Barrichello from Owen Bradley. That's a good one. Damon Hill. I think Damon Hill was kind of forced out, to be fair. Well, he was forced out. He was sacked, wasn't he? Villeneuve, yeah. Yeah, some good shouts in chat, to be fair, Jonty. Button to Brawn.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Button to Brawn was... Well, did he really move, though? Because he was already part of the Honda team.
Yeah, true. Technicality.
Yeah, he kind of just re-signed very, very, very late.
Yeah, I'm just looking at chat now. There's some really good shouts in there. Barrichello was a good one. But we are going to stick with Ferrari and move on to Charles Leclerc. Like I said, we've got quite a few to get through. I didn't count, but we've got a lot. But Charles Leclerc, big move, announced in the summer that he was going to be at Ferrari for next season. Thoroughly deserved, frankly, Jonty. I said it at the time. I think he was the right choice, and nothing that's happened since that announcement has led me to change my mind.
Yeah, I mean, we bigged him up massively at the start of the year, and I think we've been proven accurate on that. A lot of people were saying that we were bigging him up too much, but he's more than proved himself. And stepping up to Ferrari straight away, it's kind of following his pattern. You know, your GP3 won, F2 won it, came to F1 with Sauber, did amazingly well for that car, and then straight away into a front-running team. So the only next step is for him to win in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing the weekend one. I've recorded this today for tomorrow, and I got to a point in that video. Those that watch them regularly will know which point I'm talking about, but a section of that video where I was talking about Charles Leclerc, and I mentioned his move on, I think it was Alex Albon on the last lap in Abu Dhabi last season, and it just sort of slapped me in the face midstream, or mid-video, that he was racing in Formula 2 12 months ago, and now he's going into his final race with Sauber before moving to Ferrari. That is one hell of a journey in such a short space of time.
Yeah, there are not many, there's never been many drivers who can step up so quickly. But he's really proved that he can, and he's literally made a step up every year for the last 4 years.
He has. I mean, I've been watching him for a long time, but I knew he was going to make it to F1. You just kind of know when you see a youngster, but I didn't think it'd be as quick as he is to Ferrari. But what about next year then, Dan? Do you think he can, as many will I'm sure be asking in chat later, do we think he can take the fight to Vettel? I'm pretty confident that he can be, maybe not straight away at the start of the season, but come 5-6 races in, he's going to be on the pace of him.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I think even earlier. It wouldn't surprise me if in Melbourne, he's right on the money. I think he's that good. And I think give him a good winter testing with little issues, I think he's going to be right there. And I think Ferrari next year as well. I don't want to be too speculative, but I think Ferrari will definitely be there once again. And I think he's going to be in a good chance of the championship. And I know I keep saying it, and I don't want to keep getting droning on and boring, but I really think he's got a good chance. And like Jonty says, the past 4 or 5 years, he's gone from strength to strength. And I think next year could be a brilliant year for him.
How good do you think he's been this year? I know me and Jonty get a lot of fanboy thrown at us. By the way, if anyone wants to accuse me of being a Charles Leclerc fanboy, that's fine. There's worse things to be accused of, I can assure you of that. But how do you rate him this year? Do you think he's been as good as we say, or do you think we should maybe cool it a little bit?
Nah, I'm with you as well. I'm with you. I'm with you guys as well. He's been brilliant this year, and you see where he is in the championship. You see how many points he's got, especially compared to Ericsson as well. He's got plenty of experience. Isn't the worst driver of all time. That really is a great indication. So he's been brilliant this year. And so, yeah, I'm with you too. Sorry, chat. I mean, if we're going to have to be called Charles Leclerc fanboys, then so be it, because he is great.
Yeah, he just gets the top points for this year.
Yeah.
Just because he used the hello line in a tweet. That wins him.
He's just been brilliant. Or I think I go back to, just trying to think now. I think it was Bahrain. They were celebrating something. Somebody was, and he had a piece of cake. I think we talked about it before, John. He had a piece of cake, drops it on the floor, spotted by a journalist, picked it up and said, "Don't tell anybody," and ran away. I mean, that's enough to love him on its own, is it not?
Yeah, that was great. We need more of that. That's why we tend to like Red Bull boys so much, because they get involved in silly stuff off track and get more interaction with the fans. If Leclerc's getting joined in on that when he's moving to Ferrari, even better.
They could do with somebody like that. Nothing against Vettel and Raikkonen. Raikkonen's not really a PR guy, and Vettel is very, dare I say, Niki Lauda in his approach. Very to the point. You know, I'm here to race, and that's that. You don't hear a lot about anything else. But obviously, people like Charles Leclerc, Ricciardo, Verstappen, they're not afraid. Gasly as well, who we'll talk about in a bit. But we'll come on to Ricciardo. I go back to the summer, and I think he made the right move. I'm one of those that's beginning to fall for all these Red Bull stories of how good Honda are going to be. Now I'm a little bit worried, Dan, that he might have made the wrong choice. But looking back first, this season, he's been good, but his car has just let him down far too often. And that championship is not a fair reflection of the season that he, as a driver, has had.
Yeah, no way. I mean, I remember, or maybe around Austria time, when every single one of the teams had won 3 races each. Well, the top 3 teams, that is. And I remember thinking, Ricciardo's in for a chance here. He was up there on points with Hamilton and Vettel, and it was really looking like he might have somewhat of an outside chance of the championship. But how far away does that look now? I think if you double his points, he's still not anywhere near Hamilton. It's such a shame. But like you say, he's been great. He picked up that pole position in Mexico, which really he had no right to. That was Max's pole position. His form in terms of his driving, like I say, it's been brilliant. But that car, I think we all know that's been the biggest sob story in Formula One for quite some time. And it's such a shame. And you can see why he's moved to Renault, because it's a step too far. You know, 1 or 2 DNFs, you may be thinking, oh, that's a little bit off, especially in a top team like Red Bull. But is he on 7 or 8 now? That is too much. So I don't really blame him for moving on. But in terms of his own actual pace in races that the car's actually completed, he's been great.
I use this stat a lot, Jonty. He has not stood on the podium since he won in Monaco. That was in May.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that. I was just going over something in my head. I mean, all the races that he's retired from this year, you can reasonably expect he would have been at least 5th. That's 80 points just if he was coming 5th in all those retirements. And in several of those, he was up fighting for the win. You know, it really has ruined his year. And moving to Renault, it doesn't look as good of a move as it did back in the summer, but I think for him personally and for his mindset, anywhere is the right move.
It's a good step for him to hit the reset button and get out of, he's 28, 29, somewhere around there, isn't he? He's sort of at the point now where he should be at his peak as an F1 driver, sort of entering his peak years. So he needs to be somewhere where he can really sit down and have a team built around him. He wasn't going to get that at Red Bull. So I still think, I'm not convinced that Renault are going to be that good next year or even the year after. And people will talk about the 2021 rule changes. The 2021 rule changes are not going to be the rule changes that we were expecting, and are not the rule changes that Daniel Ricciardo was expecting when he signed for Renault. So I don't think we're going to get the huge whopping reset we thought we were going to get in 2021. So in terms of, for him, I think it's the right call so he can go out there, get a team built around him, get out of, dare I say, Verstappen's shadow, because that is what Red Bull are becoming, very much Verstappen's team, which they've not made any secret of really for the long term. So for him, right move. But I think in terms of winning championships, which is what he wants to do, I don't see it at Renault. I do not see it at Renault.
No, I don't either. Unless they come up with some magical bit of technical work over the winter or over the next 2 winters, then they're going to be sitting pretty much where they are now. And that's assuming that Honda don't pull something magical out, which they all claim they are.
Yeah, absolutely. This weekend, Dan, we'd love to see Danny Ric at least on the podium, wouldn't we? It'd be great to see him win his final swan song for Red Bull.
Yeah, it would be great, but it's not really a Red Bull circuit, is it? So yeah, it would be great. And I think a lot of people. Well, yeah, that's very true. So I think he would be the one out of every single driver on the grid. He would be the one more than Kimi. I'm sure we'll talk about Fernando a little bit later, but
yes.
I think, but I think Danny Ric really deserves it this year. And at the end of the day, he has been a great driver for Red Bull. Red Bull gave him his big chance, and it would be nice to give something back to them as well. But if I'm being honest, just to see him on the podium full stop, that would be great.
I always look at Daniel Ricciardo. I always think that he did everything for Red Bull, but I don't think he got that in return. Sorry, Red Bull fans, I know that might get me into trouble, but I've always felt that about Ricciardo. He's given everything he can, but he never got that commitment back in return, which is why I think he went to Renault. But Pierre Gasly, I've got a poll, by the way. What a moment to plug it, in the description down below for you to vote for your driver of the season. By the way, Sergei Sirotkin will be removed from that list, so he's not technically fourth, but we'll see. Pierre Gasly not getting a huge number of votes. He is one of my drivers of the season, Jonty. I mean, all right, he's not been on the same level as Verstappen in this last second half of the season. He's not been on the same level as Charles Leclerc or Hamilton or anybody like that. But given that half the season Toro Rosso have been a Honda test bed, for him to have picked up the points he has and performed the way he has, I think he's been brilliant and totally deserves that move to Red Bull.
Yeah, I mean, he's, again, been unlucky with, like you say, used as a test bench, as both of the Toro Rosso drivers have. But when he's been up there in the points, it's been purely on merit. It's not been with crazy, messy races or anything like that. Just looking back to Bahrain, he's been genuinely quick. And no one can ignore that.
Yeah. What about you, Dan? Do you agree with that, or do you think Gasly maybe gets a bit too much hype? I know some people might think he does, but I don't.
It's a bit of a mix. I think he's had a really good year. I'm probably a little bit skeptical about next year. I don't think he'll be that close to Verstappen whatsoever. I don't think he's that really sort of caliber of driver. I think as well, the fact that he's up against Brendon Hartley, I think skews it a little bit. No offense to Brendon fans out there, but I will say, I think you're right. I think he has been one of the drivers on the year, so that sort of contradicts what I've got to say there. But I think races like Mexico, where that car shouldn't have really been anywhere near points, I believe he got 10th, didn't he? Just at the end. So he has had some really standout races that have gone under the radar. So by no means has he been in the bottom half of the drivers this year. He has been great. I just question about next year maybe. But like I say, I have been impressed with him this year. So I hope I can be proved wrong, and I hope next year he'll jump into that Red Bull and do some special things. I really do. And with those Honda links as well, that'll only help him.
Yeah, a couple of people in chat asking why I'm removing Sirotkin from the poll. I'm removing him because the same reason Sky should probably removed him from theirs, because he's not been driver of the season. He's been good, but he has certainly not been top 5, I can promise you that. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. Do you think he can take on Verstappen next year then, Dan? Really? Or do you think that might be a step too far too soon, if that makes sense? It's quite a big step anyway to go to Red Bull from Toro Rosso, but to then have to go and take on the driver that many believe is the next world champion, if that makes sense, the next new world champion, it's quite a leap.
Yeah, I think that is a little bit of a step too far. But then again, I remember when Daniel Kvyat went to Red Bull, and I thought that, there's no way he's going to be on the pace of Ricciardo. And over the course of the season, yes, things were, I suppose, manipulated with retirements in that season, but Kvyat ended the season on more points than Ricciardo. So something similar could happen if Red Bull struggle to adapt to the Honda engine, and they need a year of, I suppose, embedding themselves with Honda, taking a few penalties here and there, and it's a bit skewed that way. But I think on raw pace, with no issues whatsoever with the car or penalties, I think Verstappen's going to be a little bit too much for Gasly, especially in the first season. But maybe a couple of years down the line, who knows? But next year, I don't really see him beating Verstappen.
How do you feel about that one, Jonty?
Well, we've got a few situations where we're going to have up and coming people pitted against who are what are now seasoned drivers. Yes, he's still only 21, 22, and you could call him Verstappen a seasoned driver. But you've got Gasly against Verstappen, Leclerc against Vettel. This is going to be the year when they have to live up to their hype. I think Leclerc will. I'm not sure if Gasly will, but I hope he does.
What does he need to do, do you think? Does he just need to be somewhere in the ballpark of Verstappen's pace? Just be there. If Verstappen finishes third, then Gasly fourth. If Verstappen is sixth, then Gasly seventh. Would that be enough for Red Bull, do you think?
It could well be. I mean, obviously we use qualifying as the best metric between drivers within a team. I think 0.3 is a fair gap for a new guy coming in. Any more than that, questions will probably start to be asked. So you know what Red Bull are like.
Yeah, absolutely. Esteban Ocon. I'm trying to swing through these. We've got so many to get through. Esteban Ocon. I'm going to say this now. I am not in the camp that all of a sudden has cropped up that because he's made one mistake, whichever way you look at it, or been involved in one incident, he's suddenly not good enough for F1. Because if we're going to start dropping people from F1 because of one incident, then see you later, Hamilton. See you later, Bottas. See you later, Vettel. Bye, Räikkönen. Bye, Leclerc. Bye, Ocon. Bye, Verstappen. There would be no motor racing. So that's just ridiculous. What happened in Brazil happened. He's been consistent all season. He was consistent last season, and he absolutely deserves to be on the grid. That's the end of it, as far as I'm concerned. But he's not going to be on the grid by the look of it. Dan, it looks, Kubica is going to be confirmed tomorrow if you believe the reports. So that's the Williams seat gone. Toro Rosso have said no. Red Bull have said no to him. Toto Wolff has said he won't be at Toro Rosso. So no seat for Ocon next year. Probably going to be test or reserve driver. I'm going to say it. I still think it's a travesty that he's not on the grid. Not necessarily that Kubica has taken that seat, because I think, as you'll find out in my video, if that news gets announced tomorrow, I think it could be a smart move for Williams. But I think when I look at Force India, when I look at Mercedes, I think it's a little bit daft and a little bit of a travesty that he's not on the grid, at least staying where he is. I know that Stroll needs that seat, but I just think, I'll say it, I would have taken him over Perez.
Yeah, I think I would as well. I really do think I would. I think my opinion around this has sort of dulled down a little bit, because I think for quite some time now, we've all come to the realization that Ocon really couldn't be on the grid next year. The seats are flying out everywhere to all these different drivers, but because of his Mercedes links, even Toto Wolff has said, because of that link, which you'd think, well, would have thought was brilliant to have that Mercedes affiliation, but that's really hurt him in the long run. But I think, like I say, had time to think about it, and I'm not too worried. I'm really not too worried. I think he'll have this year out. Next year, he'll come back, 2020. I don't think he'll be any different than this year. I really don't. I think we've seen drivers before, fantastic drivers like Fernando Alonso, have a year out. It's done absolutely nothing to their speed, nothing to their confidence, and I think that'll happen with Ocon. But like you say, I think I'd take him over Perez. I'm not Perez's biggest fan, so I just want to make that clear. But I think raw pace, I think Ocon's just about there, and he's had a great year himself. So it is a real shame he's not on the grid. And at the end of the day, we want to see the best 20 drivers in the world in Formula One. So on that terms of things, it is a real shame. But at the end of the day, I think 2020 he'll come back and he'll be just as quick.
Well, you Perez hater.
Sorry.
What do you reckon about it all? I know we've talked about it quite a lot, haven't we, really? But what do you reckon about it all, Jonty?
Well, it's fairly safe to say that Ocon could well be back. But I'm not going to say it's a certainty just yet because, like you said, we've seen so many great drivers be forced to take a year out and then never appear again. I'm thinking specifically about Verline. They performed pretty much equally when they were at Manor. They're on about the same level. And where's Verline now?
Yeah, that's it. And if Russell sits in that Williams next year and blows Toto Wolff away, that could have been worded better, but you get what I'm saying, really blows his mind and he thinks, hang on a minute, forget Ocon, this is who we need in this car. Suddenly, where does he go? It's people talk about, I know Dan just said it's only a year, but a year in F1's a long time. A year in F1 is a long time. So, yeah, I don't want to talk too much about Ocon because I feel like I've said it all and I'm always talking about him. But Lance Stroll is going to be at Force India, you would assume. We're still waiting for confirmation, but he's going to Force India, or Force Stroll, as some of you might start calling them. But yeah, I mean, my check hasn't cleared yet from Lawrence Stroll, so I can't say too much on him. But I've said it so many times, Jonty, he's not the absolute terrible driver that people talk about. And yeah, I always say, look at what he did before Formula One, and people go, oh yeah, but only because they paid off the team. Yeah, but they didn't pay off every other team on the grid. He still had to perform against others. So he's not the best driver on the grid. He's not going to be a world champion unless somehow his dad goes out and buys Ferrari or something, but he's not going to be a world champion. But he could be a good midfield driver. A solid midfield driver is probably the right way to go, and Force India should be all right with him there.
Again, I don't think he's as bad as everyone makes out. As we said before, the qualifying in Monza last year showed that. That was completely fair. So I don't think anyone can truly say he's terrible until next year. It's another case of you just got to wait and see because he hasn't had a fair crack at the whip yet.
Yeah, if he hops in that Force India and we get to the end of the season and Perez has 125 points and Ocon and Stroll has none, then we can start to ask the question unless there's any big reason behind it. But I don't think he's that bad. What do you reckon, Dan? Well, again, we're not going to talk too much about Stroll because we've spoke so much about Ocon, Stroll and Force India lately.
Yeah, I mean, I was one of those guys that in the first season, I thought, oh, what a waste of time. Get this kid out of here. We don't want him in Formula One. I was one of them. I can't deny I was one of them, but I have been impressed this year. And I think next year in Force India is a nice stepping stone for him. It's not too crazy that we're going to say, oh, he should know. There's no way he should be in that seat. I don't think it's that extreme. I think it's a nice stepping stone for him, and it'll be a nice comparison with Perez to see his pace. So if anything, I'm going to be looking forward to see that little inter-team battle. I think it'll be quite fun to watch.
Yeah, I think it'll be just interesting. I think that'll be all right. That'll be fine. He's not going to, like I say, win world championships. I just don't see it. But he could be a solid midfield driver is the nice way to put it. But Sergei Sirotkin looks like he's going to be on his way after Abu Dhabi as well, which I guess spoiler alert for tomorrow's video. I've said it in there. Last year, I think they should have taken Kubica over Sirotkin. I still think that's the right decision now over Sirotkin. Money aside, I genuinely do. I think Kubica is the better driver. But I don't think it's fair that Sirotkin gets the stick he does because I think he's been solid this year. He's not, again, like Stroll, he's not been amazing, but he's been in a dire car. He's been a match for Lance Stroll, and I think he's had a pretty decent season, Dan, and I feel a little bit sorry for him. I know Formula One, down the back end of the grid, it's not always going to go your way, and it doesn't matter what money you've got. Sometimes they do look at, for example, Kubica brings money and he will bring the speed as well. So I'm trying to get out what I'm saying, but I kind of feel a little bit bad for him. But at the same time, I'm not going to slate Williams because I tend to agree with the decision.
Yeah, I sort of agree with you because he's not been terrible and he's done some pretty impressive performances in that car. But because that car's been absolutely nowhere compared to every other team, it's gone under the radar a fair bit. It is a shame. He didn't come into Formula One with the best pedigree, but he's performed well. And part of me thinks, I'd like to see him please give it just one more year. I'd like to say that, but there's so limited seats now. It's hard to say he really deserves one over the likes of Ocon, like you say, over the likes of Kubica. So I wouldn't say I'd be sad to see him leave, but I wouldn't have mind see him just getting maybe a few more races. I don't really know. I'm like you. I'm almost on the fence because I'd love to see Kubica come in, but Sirotkin, maybe if he set the world on fire at Williams and then was leaving, then I'd be upset. But he's been fine. Yeah, I'm a little bit stuck on this one, I'd say.
Tricky, isn't it? But what a few in chat saying about how he beat Kubica in the test. I want to point something out. Kubica was quicker than both Stroll and Sirotkin when he had his FP1 outings, when we, the public, could see the lap times, but when only Williams could see the lap times, and money was being thrown around, and Sirotkin had more money than Kubica, Sirotkin was faster, apparently. Now, I'm not saying that they're making that up, but you can't always believe what these Formula One teams tell you until you've seen the data yourself, and the times in FP1 kind of says it all. Of course, we don't know what programs have been run and whatnot, but he's had a year to settle in that car. He brings experience as well, so I think Kubica is the way to go. But what I will say, Jonty, on Sirotkin, there's still a seat open at Toro Rosso. He was linked there before. There's talk about Team Russia almost over there with Daniel Kvyat. So it looks like he's gone, but, there's always that possibility.
I said it loads on Twitter. I really don't understand why there hasn't been a push that way. With the big song and dance that Dmitry Mazepin was making about, rules being broken when he was trying to get hold of Williams and he was desperate to get into F1 and all the rest of it. You've got a Russian driver already in and an empty seat with a Russian driver seemingly without one. That's a no-brainer, surely. Red Bull have said many times in the past that they actually wouldn't mind selling off the team. So get in there, do it. Because I think he does deserve a seat on the grid. He's definitely good enough. And this year he's been a breath of fresh air on the team radio by always being quite professional and never being sort of a whiny little princess. Like, let's be honest, most of the other drivers on the grid have done at least once.
Jonty, calm down. But yeah, I like him. I didn't think I would. As I said, a year ago, I was fuming that he was linked with that seat. Oh, another bloody pay driver. But I do like Sirotkin. I think he's been all right. But we'll move on because I think this could rumble on for quite a while. Just looking at some of the comments in there who aren't happy with my comments. But my channel, I'll say it one. Get used to it because the winter's coming and this is what I'm like. I'm a gobshite. But Jonty will back me up on that one. But let's get to McLaren and Fernando Alonso. We talked about him last, was it? No, it was on Sunday, wasn't it? So we'll not go crazy on Fernando. He is on his way out. He's retiring this week. He might be coming back another week. At the minute, he's still retiring. He's very much said that if F1 stays in the current state, he won't be back. He doesn't think he'll be back in 2021 because he thinks he'll be sort of too old for it by then. So it looks like game over, Jonty. And when I remember doing the stream with you, the breaking news stream, and I was gutted because I like Alonso. I didn't like him when he was beating Schumacher for obvious reasons, but I do like him, and I think he's a real character around the sport, and he's one of the best drivers on the grid. But the way he's been since his announcement, with all his bitching and moaning, part of me sort of looks at him and goes, "Oh, are you still here?"
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I was quite a fan of Alonso because he is at least one of, if not the most talented driver on grid. No one looking objectively can deny that. But his attitude ever since the announcement has been disgusting. And I've got to be honest, by this point, all I'm thinking is, yeah, well, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out.
I've seen a few people at the start say that. I think it was during the countdown to the stream that was saying that in the chat. So I don't think we're alone on that. I mean, he will be missed because he is a fantastic racing driver, Dan, but I can't help but feel that his last few months and some of the things he's come out and said has tainted my view of him a little bit, if that makes sense. And that sounds really awful. Yeah. I'm trying to explain it as best I can, but I think a few people are like that now, where it's not damaged his legacy. It's not that dramatic, but it's definitely tainted my view of him a little bit.
Yeah, I'm the same, and I think it's a real shame. Because at the end of the day, he is a legend of Formula One. There is this chance he'll come back. I don't see it happening. But even last time out in Brazil, when he's making these little snide comments about fighting for 16th, I mean, it's not needed. It's really not needed. And I think back to when Massa was leaving, when Button was leaving, there was so much positivity and sort of, I don't know, emphasis on their careers and how it was going to be such a shame to see them leaving. And I'm not saying that's not going to be there with Fernando, but in their last few races, Massa and Button, I was really thinking, oh my God, we're not going to see these guys again. But Fernando, like you say, it's a shame. And last time I was really disappointed because I was thinking, Fernando, 2 more races. He makes these silly comments, and I think, well, I don't know if I want to see these comments about complaining, fighting for 16th. That's where the car is. That's where the team is. And I know he's leaving, but you think of all the guys in the factory, they don't want to hear that. And I know that's a cliche saying think of the factory, but at the end of the day, that is a big factor of Formula One. So it is a shame, and I think you're right. It has tarnished his legacy a little bit, and especially for new fans that didn't get to see the old Fernando in Renault, in Ferrari, and have only seen him at McLaren. They probably don't have as nice and bright a view as some of us. So it is a shame. But I think at the end of the day, he will be missed. He is a legend. And I'm hoping that his last weekend he'll be lovely and happy. Points, maybe a podium, bit extreme, maybe a crazy race. I'm hoping that it's all lovely. I don't see it happening, however.
No, I think it'll be a struggle. We'll have a look at the McLaren one-off livery as well. They've kind of jinxed him with it because I seem to remember every time or most times drivers get a special livery for their final race. It all goes wrong. I'm thinking David Coulthard in his Red Bull in his final race. That all went wrong in turn 2. So it could be parked up on the side of the racetrack after a lap, but hopefully not. But I think if we can get points, I think that would be a good send-off. But part of me's going to miss him, but I'm not going to miss all his snipes at F1. And the frustration for me with him is he made those decisions. He chose to go to McLaren twice. He chose to go to Ferrari when he did, and I don't always think that what's happened at those teams is coincidence, but we're not getting into that too much. Carlos Sainz is replacing him, I guess is the way to look at it, Jonty. I think that out of those available, probably Esteban Ocon aside, I think that's a solid choice for McLaren, especially alongside somebody like Lando Norris. At least Sainz brings a few years of experience with him.
I suppose. See, the problem I got with Sainz is that thinking back over the course of this season, what can I remember about him? Well, he had really, really good scrap with Hulkenberg on lap 1 of Brazil. Anything else?
He turned up.
This is my point. Hasn't been bad. Hasn't been great. He's just kind of been in a car, but kind of nowhere for most of the season. I honestly can't remember any kind of incidents with him or any kind of spectacular racing other than the other weekend. And that worries me a little.
No, I agree on Sainz. I thought he was going to have a good season. He was good last year. I think he came third in the subs driver of the year vote because he was, I think, 9th in the championship in a pretty average Toro Rosso. He was really good last year. And I expected more from him in that Renault this year after having a few races to settle in. So I'm disappointed with him. And I absolutely, as ST's already said, I absolutely would have taken Ocon over Sainz. But out of those available, I think it was probably the better choice. Anything you want to say on Sainz, Dan?
No, I think you two summed it up well. He has been a bit of a disappointment. The only thing I can really remember is Azerbaijan, where the 2 Renaults were fighting with the 2 Red Bulls. But even then, that was for a couple of laps and then nothing. So, yeah, like you say, Chauncey, I expected him to at least be close to Hulkenberg this year. He hasn't been that far off, but it's not been special at all. So I hope he can do better next year.
Yeah. Stoffel Vandoorne, he's on his way. He's off to Formula E, which for reasons I'll explain later, I'm quite excited about. I quite rate him, Dan, actually, this Stoffel Vandoorne.
Yeah, I think he's... I want to say one of the most underrated drivers. I mean, we've spoke about it what seems like forever now. Yes, he's been behind Fernando. Is it every qualifying this year? I think so. Fernando's out-qualified him. Yeah, which that isn't great, but it is Fernando Alonso, and I hate to be the one that says that, but it is Fernando Alonso. He's not been miles off of recent. He's had some really impressive performances in Mexico and in Brazil. So, in a way, it's a shame that he's leaving Formula One, considering the hype he came in with in that very first race he had in Bahrain in 2016 was very impressive. So it is a shame that he hasn't quite lived up to the hype, but I'm excited to see him in Formula E, obviously, and I think he'll do well there. So in that terms of things, I think he'll have a more successful career in Formula E than Formula One. So for him, I think that's sort of the right move, but it is a shame at the end of the day.
For those asking, I won't stop the meme, by the way. I've got one more race to enjoy it, so you're going to suffer all weekend with it. Yeah, he's not... I think when you look at the numbers, he's not been as bad as maybe the championship shows, to be fair, Jonty, has he, Vandoorne? But at the same time, as much as I do like him, I don't think he's come out and really performed as well as we expected based on his junior series performances.
No, he's really not lived up to his previous success. And let's not make any bones about this. He was spectacularly good in the junior series. He didn't just win championships, he ran away with them quite often. So it's surprising to see him do so poorly. And it's always been in a race pace. That's the surprising thing. He's been very, very close to Alonso during qualifying. And then in the race, he's just kind of been nowhere whilst Alonso's dragging it many places ahead until it breaks. So it's a shame to see him go, but you're quite right. He will do very well in Formula E. I think we're in for a very, very good season of that coming up.
In before Vandoorne versus Wehrlein for the title. Could you imagine a fuss then in the F1 community? It'd be absolute chaos. But I think it sometimes gets overlooked as well that if you listen to Alonso, Vandoorne didn't always have equal machinery. And that's not me defending him. It's going off what Alonso says. And as we know, he's quite vocal about all that now. But a couple more to get through. Brendon Hartley, question marks over his future at the moment, Jonty. I'd be surprised if he stays. But if he has a really good weekend in Abu Dhabi, he might just save himself if they can't get Albon snapped up. But he's not been good this year at all by any stretch.
No, not really. He hasn't impressed, to be quite honest. But I do go back to the incident at Azerbaijan was it in qualifying or practice? I think it was qualifying, wasn't it? Where he nearly sent Gasly skyrocketing into a building. And his reaction after that, it just shows me he's not the kind of driver for F1. He was superb in endurance racing. I think that suits his driving style and his mental style a lot better. I just don't think he's cut out for the split-second decisions of F1. I think he plays a long game far better than he does the sort of very Twitch gaming, I suppose you could call Formula One compared to some of the other series.
Yeah, I remember you saying that at the time. Actually, he was like a white as a ghost, wasn't he? After that incident, and I remember you saying that he didn't look like he was cut out for it. So you were kind of right again. I mean, see if you're right on Leclerc this weekend, but that might be two things, Jonty. Steady on. But Dan, do you reckon Hartley will go? Is all this because Albon was included on the FE entry list, which has added some interesting side to this whole drama? Do you think he's going to stick around at Toro Rosso? Because obviously, if they don't get Albon, there's only really ticked him if he can land enough super license points before we get to next season. So really, he might be more a case that Toro Rosso have no choice, as awful as that sounds.
Yeah, if I'm being totally honest, I'm surprised he's lasted this long. I really am. All that talk back in Canada that he was going to lose his seat, I thought he was certain. I thought he was definitely gone, but he's hung in for so long now. At this point, it wouldn't surprise me if he stays, but I definitely don't think it's Toro Rosso's preferred choice. I think they'd love to have Albon, but that's really looking like a sticky situation, getting him out of that Formula E deal, sorry. And Dan Ticktum be racing in F2 this weekend, so I'm not very good with super license points, but there has been a few articles that he might be able to do it, so I think Toro Rosso will sort of hope that he can do it, but
he could, but I think he needs something like 63 points from 2 races in order to get them. Much. But there's also the thing is though, if he gets a decent finish, that's experience in F2, which does count towards super license. But also there's the Winter Series as well if he performs in that. But then, to be honest, Toro Rosso are leaving that very late to then make a decision, aren't they? So.
I can see Hartley at this point. There just seems so limited options. It's going to be difficult for him.
Yeah, I agree on that one. Emotional moment. There is one more, of course, who will be departing Formula One at the end of the year. I'll try not to cry, peeps. I'll try not to cry. Marcus Ericsson's off, Dan. Very sad. I look, it all started off as a bit of a meme over on Discord. I'm not going to lie, and I was quite critical of him. He became the server mascot. But the funny thing is, I've kind of grown to almost love him, which is quite a weird feeling given how I felt about him maybe 18 months ago. But this season, and I'm going to say it, yes, the car is better. I know the car is better before. All those that when I say it's white like to come in and say it's black. I know the car's better, but he has driven better this year as well, Dan. And it's kind of ironic, as we've said before, that the 1 year he really steps up is his last year.
Yeah, by far he's outperformed himself this year. I remember last year in Suzuka, where he made a really stupid mistake halfway through the race, seemed to lose concentration, binned it through the second Degner. And I thought, yeah, that's classic Ericsson. How he's keeping his seat. But no, this year he's been quite impressive. Not on the levels of Charles Leclerc, but Charles Leclerc is a tip superstar for Formula One. Ericsson, I think this year, has driven like a solid midfield driver. So it like you say, it's a shame that he's leaving Formula One in arguably his best ever year. But I think, if I'm being totally honest, sorry, you won't want to hear this, but I think the lineup they'll have next year, unfortunately, I think it's better that it's Giovinazzi than Räikkönen than it is Marcus Ericsson. Sorry about that, but it will be very sad. I agree. IndyCar, you can have him, but just look after him.
I used to like Dan Jonty.
Yeah, I know. But I think it's worth noting that I think Ericsson's been imbued with the spirit of the Discord server because he has just improved as the memery and mascot has grown on Discord, and he's just got better and better through the year as we've made more of a mockery of it, which is kind of weird. So I think everyone on Discord should be watching IndyCar next year while he's partnering Hinchy, just to give him all of that, and he can win the 500 and really annoy Alonso.
Or Alonso coming out and saying all these paid drivers on the grid, and then someone goes and beats him to the Indy 500. That'd be quite amusing. Yeah, I'd quite enjoy that. Nothing against Alonso, but it'd be great to see Ericsson pull that one off. I will miss him. I'm not going to lie about it. He may be back one day. You know, somebody might be short of a bob or two and need to take a driver who they know can deliver. But ST was pointing out there, us cheering him at Silverstone. I have to say, we got some weird looks. Every time we went past, we cheered, and we were the only ones in the whole place. But there you go. But yeah, he's going to be missed, and I think he has been decent this year. But I don't necessarily agree with you, Dan. I don't think Giovinazzi is going to be the superstar everyone's expecting him to be. But I think he's proven in his practice outings that he's better than I thought he was, but I still would have kept Ericsson alongside Räikkönen. But of course, as we know, that kind of wasn't Sauber's choice at the end of the day, was it? Because Kimi, technically speaking, Leclerc and Kimi have swapped, but Kimi's actually taken Ericsson's seat and Giovinazzi's taken Leclerc's seat. So it was actually Ferrari's decision not to take. I'm confused. Let's move on. Anyway, so
I was just thinking we could start a new meme. He's leaving F1, so he can't be King Marcus, but he's going to IndyCar, so it's now President Ericsson.
President Ericsson. That's a terrifying thought. I like it, though. That's great. When I go on Discord later, I know exactly what I'm going to see straight away. But out of everyone that's moving on from Formula One this year, then I'll come to you first, Dan. Who are you going to miss the most from the grid? That's revenge.
Fernando. Yeah, it's Fernando. I'm going to have to go Fernando, even though he can be a bit of a pain sometimes. I think that something different he brings to Formula One, and I will miss it a little bit, especially his team radio. So I'll go Fernando.
Jonty?
That's a tricky one. Obviously, I would like to say Alonso, but he's been annoying me so much the last few races. I don't think I can.
See, I'm obviously going to say Ericsson, but obviously as well Ocon a little bit. But the difference between Alonso going and Ericsson and Ocon going is that Ericsson's still young enough to return. Obviously, Alonso isn't old, but you know what I mean. Ericsson's still young enough to come back. Ocon is likely to come back. So with Alonso, it feels more like this is a proper farewell. So I would probably, as much as he is annoying me as well, I'd probably say Fernando too, because it's more of a permanent thing.
Yeah, that makes some sense.
Jonty's torn.
Yeah, Honestly, I don't think I'm actually going to miss any of them that much.
That's shocking.
Compared to the people that we've got coming in, I'm far more excited to see them than I am disappointed to see the leavers go. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. But yeah, I'll let you have a think. We might come back to this one in Q&A, but I'm gonna send you to quiet for a couple of minutes because I'm gonna do my channel update and I need to do it all professionally, like I'm reading from a script, so that I can just chop it straight out and put it on as a video. Because
you don't want us blowing raspberries and stuff.
No. No, I just don't want to listen to Dan, frankly, and his Ericsson and Perez hate.
And don't forget my Abu Dhabi love last week. So it's going very well for me.
Yeah, he's not having a good day, is old Jan, as I called him at the start of the stream. But yeah, I will come back to you guys in a minute or two with some Q&A. Right then, I think that should have... If I hear raspberries in my ear, there's going to be trouble. But yes, so I'm going to do a bit of a channel update. So I'm going to go quiet for just a second so I know where to lop out. Lop out sounds disgusting. Where I know where to cut out what I need to for the standalone video, because not everybody watches these live streams, and so I'm going to try and make sure that everyone that wants to see a channel update will get to see one. So I'm going to go quiet for just a second. So let's get into the channel update then for the winter content here on the F1 Word. So after this weekend, there will be a debrief on the Monday, a news roundup on the Friday, and then there might be a stream on the Wednesday, but I'm not 100% sure on that one yet. It kind of depends on what Abu Dhabi throws up in terms of talking points and whether you guys have got anything you want us to cover from that. So there might be a stream midweek, but there might not as well. But the rest of that week is going to be me spent in my little studio prepping some of the winter content. But we will be live at 6 p.m. UK time on Sunday, December the 2nd for the season review. And there is at least 4 of us going to be there for that one. So it is going to be a bumper end of season stream. So it might be quite a long one, but we're going to try and review the season between us all and get some of our opinions out. A proper sit down chat, if that makes sense. So yes, now the week commencing Monday the 3rd of December, I'm going to be teaming up with Planet F1 for their end of season awards, which will include videos on the channel looking at and discussing the nominees for each category. So that will... I think they've got Best Overtake of the Year, Driver of the Year, things like that. It's going to be a video for each of those categories, and there will be a results show as well on Monday, December 10th. That week will also see the start of my end-of-season reports. Now, if you saw them in the summer, I think I called them the half-term reports, it'll be something similar to that, and I was thinking of 2 teams per video and therefore 5 videos in total, but that seems quite a lot, so I might try and cut that down to 3 or 4 videos, and like I say, then there'll be a results video on Monday the 10th for Planet F1, but more on all of that a little bit nearer the time. That is still quite a way away, although not that far away when you think about it, but anyway. From Monday the 10th of December, excluding that Monday, of course, the winter schedule will take its place on the channel. It's the same as last year, so you're going to get videos every Tuesday, every Thursday and every Saturday, plus a live stream every Sunday. That's guaranteed. Obviously, that might need to tweak for Christmas, but that's pretty much guaranteed. The Tuesday and Thursday videos will be opinion-based, as they used to be, and the Saturday video will be a weekly news roundup, which I'm going to try and make a little less formal and try and make it a bit more interesting, but I'll work on that one again a little bit nearer the time. The Sunday streams are going to continue as per usual, but midweek streams will be a lot rarer, simply due to the lack of news over the winter. So there will be some, but they won't be every week, if that makes sense. Maybe I'll just do, like, I don't know, an odd Q&A every so often or something like that. So they'll be around, but not really that many. The schedule will need to be tweaked, as I've already said, for things like Christmas and New Year. So, for example, I don't know, there will be a video on Monday, December 24th, but then no content until Friday 28th or Saturday 29th, something like that. But that's quite a way away at the moment, so I will update you over on social media on that one with a proper schedule. But content plans. This is the bit I've been quite looking forward to sharing with you all. The F1 Word Christmas special, yes, that's back, will be live on Sunday, December 23rd. And your top 5 drivers of 2018, which you can vote for, there is a link in the description down below, will be posted at some point that Christmas week. I am also going to do a cheesy My Year on YouTube video that will probably go up on New Year's Eve. Again, very cheesy, but I like to do that because it's good to say thank you to you guys and wish you all a happy new year. But I can't believe we're nearly in December. It's crazy. There will be a new series called F1 Legends, and that does exactly what it says on the tin, pretty much. And that starts on Thursday, January 3rd. So if you do a little bit of digging on the internet, you can probably guess who that first one will be about. I also want to bring back the Future Stars series this winter. That was supposed to return during the summer break, but Daniel Ricciardo and Fernando Alonso put pay to that with their hand grenades in the driver market. So thanks for that. But hopefully I'll be able to bring that one back as well. But with both of those series, I do want to say they are not going to run exclusively through the winter. I will try and continue them steadily through the year, and don't expect one every week, if that makes sense. They'll be like about, but not on set days or X amount per month or anything like that. More as I've got the time to do them, when I kind of feel that I want to do them, that's when they will go up on the channel. So yes, looking forward to those ones. Definitely something a bit history on the channel. I know I did that last... I think I did some last winter, and that went down really, really well. So we'll try and get some history on the channel as well. I'm also going to be attending the Autosport International Show over the weekend of January the 10th to the 13th. So there will be content from there as well. Now I'm going to obviously put stuff up when I get back. If you were around and watching the channel last year, you'll have seen sort of a vlog without my face in it. I know people didn't like that. There will be my face in it this year, though, don't worry. And hopefully an interview like I did last year with someone like Enam Ahmed, maybe get a couple done would be really, really cool. So there'll be some content from that when I get back. And if I can find some solid internet and a decent connection while I'm there, I will try and do something from the venue as well. I believe Stuart is going as well, so that could be something, but we'll see on that one. Talking about January, throughout January, I will be answering your questions in dedicated videos, just like I did last winter. So in the comment section to this stream, not in chat, in the comment section to this stream and in this video, if you're watching this afterwards, you can start posting your questions now. Use the hashtag, let's say January, at the start of your questions, so I can easily pick them out when it comes to making videos. Obviously, I can't answer everybody's questions, but I will try my best to answer as many as I can. And we got some really good ones last year, like I think the two sides of Sebastian Vettel was one, and I think the curious case of Nico Hülkenberg, and they were big performers on the channel. So we'll get some more stuff like that out. And there will be videos like my Why is Lewis Hamilton So Hated video that come up as well, and that is the biggest performer on the channel. 600k that's got. Why? It's just me talking my opinion for 12 minutes, but yeah, there you go. So stuff like that will be on the channel over the winter. But that is pretty much it with regards to new stuff on the channel over this coming winter. Well, apart from one thing, I am looking into bringing Formula E content to the channel. Now, what form that takes, I'm still not 100%. I have some ideas, and we'll finalise all of that very, very soon. I've spoken to Dan as well about doing some post-race weekend video stuff between us for each event, so that is likely where it will start. But like I say, I'm currently trying to work on coming up with how I want it all to go and how much content from the series there will be. But as I'm pretty new to it, it may well be a case that the amount of content about the series grows as my knowledge and understanding of it grows, if that makes sense. So as I learn a bit more, I might want to make more content on it. Kind of like an F1 noob journey, but I won't call it that because that's absolutely terrible. But something along those lines. So Formula E content is coming, but like I say, I'm not sure what form it's going to take or how much there will be. What I will say is do not expect, like this weekend in F1, we've got the weekend warm-up, the Friday roundup, the qualifying watch-along, the qualifying report, the race watch-along, the post-race stream, and the race debrief. Do not expect that amount of content for Formula E because there simply will not be. Because one, I'll face burnout, and two, I don't know enough about the sport to talk about it for that long. So it's coming, but it's not going to be a dominant fixture on the channel to start with. What I do want to add, though, because I've seen a few in chat already, for those who have no interest in Formula E and hate the idea of me doing it, this is and will remain the F1 word. That is staying like that. F1 will be the priority on the channel, and any FE content will not, and I promise you, will not be instead of F1 content. It will be in addition to. So those that want to watch it can, and those that don't want to watch it still get the usual content on the channel. So don't worry about that. That's a promise from me to you, so I won't let you down on that one. I know a few of you aren't really into FE, so I'll make sure that it doesn't take over. That should pretty much see us all the way to pre-season testing, which of course starts on February 18th, and you can expect coverage of all of that once again, but it's November, so we'll worry about that when we get to car launches, etc. There are a few other bits I'm looking into, but I'm not going to say anything on that yet, just in case they don't happen. But for now, that is it for the winter channel update. Yes, there you go. Just rabbiting on there. I'm back, Jonty and Dan, after my longer than I expected chat about the future of the channel. Are you excited you excited, Jonty, for some of the stuff we've got in the winter? And I know you are, Dan, with the Formula E stuff.
I hadn't actually heard. You haven't actually told me about lots of those things.
Oh, yes. Surprise.
Looks brilliant, mate. I'm really excited. I think you've done a fantastic job there.
I'm sorry, Jonty.
I was just sat there going, "Oh, you're doing that, are we?" I know most of them will be you doing videos. It's like, oh, I need to make sure I'm free on Sunday, December 2nd. Right, okay.
Yes,
I'm free every Sunday. Everyone should know that. I wouldn't be anywhere but here.
I just tend to sit here and I get ideas or I run with things and then I don't always remember who I've told. I thought I had, but obviously I haven't. So I apologise, sir. I do, but it's all good stuff. So I'm looking, especially that F1 Legends series. I'm not going to lie, really looking forward to doing that one. And January the 3rd is the first one. So you might have worked out who it's about, Jonty, but we'll let other people have some fun with that one. But let's take some questions from chat before I continue rabbiting on about the winter. It feels like a long old winter, but I think with everything we've got planned, we should be okay. So, let's have a quick look through. See what we've got. A few people not fans of FE, but that's absolutely fine. Like I say, it's not going to take over. So, when you all get face cameras, which corner of the screen would be Jonty's corner?
Oh, good question. All of them.
Every corner. just 4 Jontys on screen every stream. Where'd you look? Sean, is it about a driver called Romain Grosjean? Oh, absolutely. What a legend he is, Dan. Ugh.
Brilliant. Whoever said that, you are the legend.
You got the cookbook yet?
No, still working on that.
I actually have no idea which driver you're doing it about. So.
Okay, I'll tell you later then. Yeah. Looking for questions. I think people are too busy talking about winter content now. Let's have a look. The FE word, no.
Everyone who says they don't like it, you really should just give it a try the first race this season, because that car is a completely different animal to what it's been before. Just trust me. Trust Jonty.
This is it. I mean, I've not really got into it. It's not taking over the channel, but I'm now talking about it in a Formula 1 stream. But yeah, I've not really got into it. I've tried to watch bits of it, but never really followed it like I do Formula 1. But I think if everyone watches the first race and if everybody who's watched it, giving it a chance, looks at it and goes, this is crap, and walks away, that's fine. But give it a chance. Once upon a time, people had to give Formula 1 a chance. Man, have I changed my tune, Dan.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I remember the very first stream when I mentioned Formula E. When both of you said what a waste of time it was, how things have changed in 6 months. So my work here is done, obviously.
Yeah, bye, Dan. Nice to meet you. No, but in seriousness, the more I've read about it, the more interested I've become in it. So there you go. Marin says, will you do classic race watch-alongs? They were something we trialled, obviously, a few weeks ago. I'm going to speak for myself here, and I'll ask you two as well. I absolutely love them. So I think I believe you two enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did as well. Sorry, John.
Yeah, so it's definitely something we're looking at for the winter, but I didn't mention it in the update there because I can't commit to certain days and times and things till I know exactly where everything's going to fall with Planet F1 and obviously Autosport and things like that. So hopefully we'll be able to get some odd ones in on maybe a midweek or a Sunday afternoon or something, try and replace F1, but we'll definitely try and get a few done, and I'll put some polls up as well for you guys to pick from as well. So let's have a look. A few more questions before we disappear. I'm not going to read that one. You should do a race 1 watch along to get people into it with you guys, please. Like, seriously, it's winter, what do you have to lose? I'll think about it, the Mighty Dash. Sorry if I just mimicked you there, I don't know what you sound like, but there you go. Do you like the step noses from 2012, says Daniel? I prefer them to what we got in 2014 with that Ferrari. I prefer them to the gentleman's appendage noses, as I like to call them, rather than the other term. But not really, but they're not the worst thing that's ever been on an F1 car, are they, Dan? Really?
No. The Halloween stream, I think we saw some pretty dodgy things on some cars. So I think we saw some worse things then. They're not the worst thing, but I don't really want to see them back, if that makes any sense.
What about you, Jonty? Did you like them?
I do think they were the second worst thing. The appendage noses were the worst. Because all the stuff in the past, at least they were trying new stuff. You know what I mean? It was the birth of aerodynamics. So they were just trying things out. But those recent ones, I hated them.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, then cars like the Red Bull, it didn't look too bad on, but there was some. I mean, yeah, some were absolutely terrible. But yeah, I think the gentleman's appendage noses were absolutely disgusting, and I still think that was almost a literal finger to the FIA when they changed the rules. Like, oh, fine then, this is what we'll do instead.
Yeah, the Caterham was the worst of them.
Oh, Jesus. What was the point? I mean, what was the point? The Caterham didn't actually have those noses, but it's just the Marcus needed more space. Why did I read that? I was trying to see if there's any questions, anything not been asked yet. Recently, that might open a can of worms, so I won't read that one. I think, unless anyone's got one that comes through in the next couple of minutes, I think we'll probably leave it there. Perenni David says, any news about the 2021 rule changes? Last I heard, Jonty, we're, in terms of the engine, or power unit, whatever you want to call it, we're essentially getting the same thing, but with no MGU-H?
No, they changed that again.
Have they? No. What is it this week? V10?
I have no idea, but that one didn't stick around for too long. There's still some talk about it being driver deployable KERS as opposed to generally RS. But again, still nothing in stone.
Okay. Keep an eye on that one then. But nothing really being said at the moment. They're supposed to be finalised, but still heard nothing. Running out of time if they're going to be making any major changes, I will say that one. But then you could argue they left it very late with the sign-off for 2019 changes, so I suppose I'm not overly worried about that. Just in a couple of questions I want to answer before we go. Fritz says, thoughts on Verstappen next year, expectations. I think I tend to agree with Christian Horner when he says that if Honda can get within or get to sort of half a second off the pace of Mercedes and Ferrari, you only have to look at what's happened this season at places like Mexico to show that if Red Bull nailed the chassis, they could compete for the championship, Dan. I think there would need to be some luck in there, but, you know, we've seen when they're just about there, they are able to take it to them.
Yeah, and I think this year, if Ricciardo hadn't had his reliability issues, if Max didn't have such a shaky start, then they'd be even closer still. I mean, we go into this weekend with Max in the fight for third in the championship. That's still very much a possibility. So, yeah, I don't see why not next year. If the engine can get that, I suppose, a little bit closer if possible, then why not? Let's throw out that crazy prediction and say, yeah, he could be in for the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see him versus Leclerc next year. Can you imagine the scenes if Leclerc wins the championship before Verstappen?
Oh, that would be drama. That'd be spicy drama, though. That'd be nice. that'd be a lot of fun.
It wouldn't go down well with some. I think that's the way to put it. But yeah, you know, it's all about where you put yourself as a driver, isn't it, in terms of what car? But one more I want to finish on, and this comes from Neil, and it just simply asks Fernando's career highlights. And that's a really good one to end on because obviously it is his last race. We've already said it a couple of times, but Fernando's career highlights then. So if we ignore probably his decision-making, I don't think that's ever going to be a highlight of his career. If we ignore what happened in Hungary and subsequently in 2007, that's something we need to do a video on, Jonty, because there's loads about that come out this week.
Yeah.
Ignoring all of that one, I think his first championship was quite a highlight, but I think that move around 130R on Schumacher, I think, goes down for me as the one thing I will remember him for in Formula One. And I'll come to you first, Jonty.
Yeah, I was just going to say we saw it in the classic watch-along. That move around the outside of 130R, not just on anyone, but on Schumacher, was pretty special. If I was going to call anything else, I would say his entire 2012 season.
Yes.
He truly showed he was one of the driving greats when he dragged that dog of a Ferrari to multiple wins and a couple of points away from the title. It was an incredible achievement, and he deserved that. That's probably the most deserved title that hasn't been won, in my opinion.
That's a great point. I sometimes forget about that season because he really did outdrive that car. What about you, Dan? Your defining moment, if you like, of his career, the thing you'll remember him for?
I think, obviously, I didn't really watch too much Formula One in his Renault days, in his early career. So for me, Fernando was always the Ferrari man. And I think Jonty's right, 2012, in an absolute dog of a car to a degree, that was a special year. And I remember 2013, I believe it was, his home Grand Prix, started fifth on the grid, turn 3, around the outside of, I believe it was Webber and Hamilton, around 2 cars, just passing 1 car around the outside would be incredible. But in that awful Ferrari that year, passing Hamilton and Webber and going on to win his home Grand Prix, really just sums up for me his ability, especially during my time watching Formula One, his ability to just pull performance out of these awful cars. So, yeah, I think that's what will stick in my mind, just his ability just to extract everything. So, yeah, I'll definitely miss him.
A few people in chat going with some of the more comical moments, the GP2 engine, the Karma, lawn chair, says Stig, hands down. But a few have said it, and I'm going to give you a shout out for those that have already. Let's have a look. So, Jose, Neil, who asked a question originally, and there was another one who I think I'm going to miss, and I'm sorry if I do. I probably am, so sorry for missing you on this one. But those that... Oh, there it is. Addy, Valencia 2012, that emotion at the end, Jonty, I'll never forget. I say I never forget it. I almost did forget it, but that was a side to Fernando I'd never seen, that emotion. Obviously, winning the championship, he was full of it, but that kind of emotion. And I think that's something that should stick with people a little bit.
Yeah, it's a better way to remember him. It'd be nice to just pretend this year never happened for him, if that makes any sense. So we don't have to remember the negatives. I mean, yes, there's been negatives about the engine previously, but they were quite comical. With the deck chair, as people are saying. So, yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. But I think we're going to leave it there on the Alonso stuff. I'm going to talk about him in a video. Actually, why not? Spoiler alert and exclusive. That is your Christmas Eve video. Farewell, Fernando. So that will be out, obviously, Christmas Eve. I think the title gives it away there quite nicely. But yes, we'll leave it there, guys, because I'm starting to ramble now. You can tell we'll be going on a bit. But thank you as ever, Dan, for coming along and getting involved and having... So I was reading something in Discord that's really thrown me off there. But thank you very much, Dan, for coming along, mate. It's been a pleasure as always.
That's all right, man. Cheers for having me as always, and I've loved it. And I'll tell you what, while you were talking about your winter plans, the chat had me in absolute hysterics. So thanks, chat, for being there as always and giving me a good chuckle.
There you go. I'll be asking you about that in a minute. And also, thank you very much as ever, Jonty. We've got plenty coming up this weekend and loads coming over the winter. So you're going to be sick of me by the time we get to March. But it's been awesome again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to winter and looking forward to next season. So I'll still be here.
Awesome. I thought you were going to say I'm sick of you already, but thank you for not saying that one. I appreciate it. But I will inevitably talk to you both very shortly. So thank you very much again.
Yeah, and thanks, chat, as ever. I'll see you next time.
See you later, everyone.
Lovely. Thank you very much to Dan and to Jonty. And thank you to all you guys in chat. Sounds like you've been entertaining them whilst I was doing my channel update. So thank you for that one. And thank you for not listening. I'm joking. But yes, it's been awesome once again. I'm going to be back with a crap ton of content over the next few days. If the Kubica news is announced tomorrow, there'll be a video up on that one. There's also the weekend warm-up to look forward to tomorrow, so it could be double upload. 4 p.m. on Friday, I'll be live with the Friday roundup. I can't go any later, unfortunately. I'll go live any later because I'm actually out that night for a family do, so I couldn't stream it later. So 4 p.m. it will be for that one. There'll be the qualifying watch-along on Saturday, the qualifying report, which will also be up on Saturday. There's the race watch-along on Sunday, the post-race stream on Sunday, and the race debrief on Monday. So loads coming up over the next... 4 or 5 days? So if you're all sick of me by next week, you'll be glad that I'm taking a couple of days off after the season finishes. But yes, lots to cover, and I'll keep you updated, of course, over on social media on anything that might change. I don't think it will. Everything seems to be going okay, knock on wood, with the PC, so we should be fine this weekend. But you can follow me over on social media. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.